Awesome. Welcome, guys. When our star comes out on stage. Okay. So, we're super thrilled that you're here today. Thank you for being here. This man is an incredible talent, and you're so lucky he's a local treasure. I bet parents and chaperones and teachers in here, everybody probably knows Gremlins? Yes! 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 Mrs. Doubtfire. Everybody also directed or co-wrote all of those. There's also a movie called Percy Jackson. And there's one that probably this crowd wouldn't know. It's just called Harry Potter. He's pretty great. He's multi-talented. He's writing books. The fabulous House of Secrets came out a couple of years ago about the Walker children and their adventures. This is a sequel called Battle of the Beasts. He's here to talk about it. Give a warm, warm welcome, please, to Mr. Hunter.
Hi guys! Hi! This is a good turnout. Wow, this is the only time in my life I felt like a rock star. So this is good. I feel like I'm in one direction. Oh, the boys said boo. Alright, so I'm going to ask you. We're going to do a couple of things today. I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions. I won't talk much about myself. You know, you've heard some of the movies I've been involved with, but I want to answer your questions. I want to find out what you guys are interested in. And I'm going to do a reading from the new book, House of Secrets, Battle of the Beasts. And I'm also going to do a reading and maybe invite a couple of the best actors in the house.
Oh, yes!
So, the first question I have for you guys, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Who read the first book, House of Secrets? Yes. And what did you think of it? I'll ask you.
I thought it was really good and exciting.
Was it too long?
No.
No, okay, good. Too short. Well, these books are... Yeah, well, these are 450 pages, so if you read them, I'm very impressed that you've done that. Yes?
He had a lot of interesting stuff throughout the book. It was you did not want to put your book down.
What did you think was what did you guys think the theme of the book was? What do you think the
Awesomeness.
Awesomeness. A little deeper than that. Funny? So she thought it was an adventure, and you thought
sci-fi fantasy adventure.
Sci-fi fantasy adventure, but what we were really trying to do, the author and I, is my co-author Ned, we wanted to turn this series into a book series that would create a love of reading. So we had hoped when you finish House of Secrets, you'd either give it to a friend or go out and find another book or go to your library and continue reading, because it's important to keep reading, right? You guys love reading? Very important to support your local bookstore. Now, who remembers, I don't know, a quick 5 sentences, let's keep it to 5, remembers the plot of the first House of Secrets really well? Do you know it pretty well? Come on up here, you can tell everybody what it was. What's your name? This is Claire. This looks like one of my kids, actually. Okay, so this is the plot of House of Secrets.
So the plot was the three kids of the Walker family disappeared. No, their parents disappeared one night while watching a movie. When they moved to, I forget the address.
Seacliff, there you go.
Seacliff, San Francisco Avenue. And they had a giant adventure with these storybooks that they owned in that house. They came to life, literally.
Excellent. So basically the kids Very good. That was awesome. So the kids basically fall into the world of this fantasy writer's books, and they get into a mashup of the world. And that's what we did in the second book as well. In the second book, they get into the novels. They get into ancient Rome, World War II, and they meet frost beasts in Tibet. So they have a lot of adventures in that world. Yes?
I remember last time in 4th grade when we came to
Yeah. Last time in 4th grade, yeah.
that you read us a little bit of the book, or are you going to do that?
You are like a perfect introduction. Yes, I'm going to read a little of this book. Now, if you remember in the last book, the Walkers, their nemesis. Who remembers the name of the villain? Who was the villain? Yeah, you. Yeah. The Wind Witch. Yes, the Wind Witch had the ability. What did the Wind Witch have the ability to do? What's that? Her name is Dahlia Kristoff. And what was her power? Your name's Dahlia. What was her power?
I think she was bald and she can make wings with her back.
She was bald. I don't know if it's a power to be bald. I'll tell you. I'll get there. But she's bald and she can make wings with her back, but she was also could create ice and snow. And she was very cold. So, when at one point in the first book, Dahlia took Cordelia, the girl who is our heroine, and they walked through, she turned her to ice, and they walked through bars. That's how they escaped. They turned their bodies to ice, smashed through the bars, and then their bodies reformed. Well, at the end of the first book, everybody got back to San Francisco, and everybody thought everyone was fine. Cordelia thought she was fine. Brendan thought he was fine. But Cordelia goes to school at the beginning of the second book, and I'm going to read you something that may have happened to Cordelia as a result of the first adventure.
Oh, snap.
Too lucky.
Okay, so this is, now, the Walker family inherited $10 million at the end of the first book, so they have a lot of money, so they transferred from public school, and they now go to a very fancy private school. So this is Cordelia's day at school. All right, you ready? Yeah! All right, here we go. Cordelia was feeling a lot better than Brendan. In fact, since she started going to Bay Academy Prep, she found that she was happier at school than she was at home, which was a little sad, but she didn't mind. She looked at the place as an opportunity to reinvent herself. At her old school, everyone knew her as the girl who was reading all the time, or the quiet girl, or Brendan's older sister, because Brendan had such a personality. But not here. Here, Cordelia was the person who had started the student tutoring program. It hadn't been so hard, and it had come together quickly. In her first 2 weeks at Bay Academy, Cordelia noticed that a lot of freshmen and sophomores were getting tutors outside the school, which seemed silly because there were very smart juniors and seniors who could tutor them just fine. And those juniors and seniors wanted extracurricular activities for their college application. So Cordelia thought, why not start a program that turns older students into tutors for younger students? She went to the student union office to talk about the idea. There she met Priya, student body treasurer, who liked it and liked her. That was how Cordelia found herself participating in student government, or school politics as people called it. But for her, it really wasn't about politics, it was about helping. She set up the student tutoring program in 2 weeks, and it was a big success with 20 pairs of tutors and students already signed up. Maybe helping people is what I'm supposed to do, she thought, now as she passed the students tutoring sign-up board in Douglas Croft, the building that held high school classes. Help people. It feels good to help people, and it makes me stop thinking about myself or Will or what we were through on the last adventure. Priya had suggested to Cordelia that maybe she should run for class president next year. It was an idea that scared Cordelia because, and excited her, or maybe it excited her because it scared her. So Cordelia went into her first class history with Mrs. Mortimer and sat in the middle of the room. She tuned out her thoughts and got into the work of school, which was something she always had the ability to do. Until she felt somebody looking at her. It was a nasty, prickly feeling. Cordelia had felt it a few times in the last few weeks at school and at home. She always stopped what she was doing to try and catch the watcher. This time was no different. She sat stock still and moved only her eyes. Was one of her classmates looking at her? She dropped her pen to give herself an excuse to look behind her. No, it wasn't any of the students, but it was someone. Suddenly she saw somebody out the window moving away. She couldn't see the person's face, just a long black body. Maybe someone who was bald. It quickly disappeared. She stood up, aghast, but stopped and sat back down. Something was happening to her hands. It started with the veins. Below her skin, which was fair, her veins were not things she paid much attention to, but she knew she didn't have veins on her fingers. Who had veins on their fingers? Old people. And yet, She had them now. They were dark and thick and rising to the surface of her skin. It was like she was seeing it from outside her body. The veins were stretching, fattening, and the skin around them was shrinking, becoming paler and paler, drying up as if it were going to flake off, like she had a disease, or like I'm getting old, Cordelia thought. This is a nightmare. It has to be. I'm not really even at school. My mind is sabotaging me. I'm not here at all. She flipped her hands around her. Her palms had deep lines. Her nails were growing, turning orange, becoming dirty underneath. As she looked at them, a piercing cold hit her side, like a frozen bullet biting into her. Cordelia wrenched over in pain, biting her lip to keep from crying out. Her hands were curling now, becoming like tangled, dead gray roots. She remembered something she had learned about foot binding in social studies, how when Chinese people used to foot bind women, the goal was to make their toes turn inward, to make a golden lotus, the most beautiful kind of foot there was, a foot you couldn't even walk on, and that's what her hands were turning into, a dead lotus, cold inside. She screamed. Everyone in class turned to her. Cordelia quickly hid her hands behind the desk. "Cordelia, are you all right?" Mrs. Mortimer asked. "May I please be excused?" She said it wasn't a question. She shoved her old woman hands inside her bag, got up, and rushed from the room, using her elbow to open the door. Mrs. Mortimer protested as kids behind her gave her another looks and started laughing. But Cordelia felt a different look. She felt the look of the person who had been watching her, back again, seeing what she was going through and feeling pleased about it. She whirled around at the window, but no one was there. "I'm losing it," she thought. She could think of only one place to go. Cordelia dashed down the hallway with her hands in her bag. Why she had not worn something with pockets today? Because, she thought, I wanted to wear leggings with this vintage sweater. Tim Bradley from her chemistry class suddenly appeared at the end of the hall. He was tall, on the basketball team, with shaggy red hair, blue eyes, and a sweet smile. He sneaked glances at Cordelia in chemistry when he thought she wasn't looking, but Cordelia always knew when someone was staring at her, especially a cute guy. Still, Tim never talked to her. Maybe he didn't have the courage, except now he's waving at her, holding a hall pass. "Hey, Cordelia, you okay?" "Can't talk," Cordelia said, moving past him. She couldn't believe it. Boys never knew how to time anything. "But wait, you're going into the..." "I know," thought Cordelia as she dipped inside the women's faculty restroom. She closed the door. The faculty restrooms were like hidden templates at her school. No one had ever been inside them, and they could contain anything. Luckily, this one was empty. Cordelia pulled out her hands to examine them. They were worse, like gnarled old sticks with gray hide pulled over them, like fossilized snakeskins. With great difficulty, she managed to lock the door, noticing as she did that her hands were still getting older, shriveling and cracking in real time. They could going to fall off and leave her with stumps. Like the wind witch, she realized, who had a hand like this. Dahlia Christoph, that's who. Suddenly, Cordelia's hands were cold, ice cold. Suddenly, she had an idea. She used her elbows to turn on the sink's hot water. When we were on the pirate ship, what did the wind witch do to me? She turned me to ice. And what's the opposite of ice? Cordelia shoved her hands into the sink. The water burned. She jerked back but held firm. Steam rose into her face. Tears came out of her eyes. "This is good. This will help. Beat the ice. Beat it with heat." She wiped her hands on her eyes. She wiped her eyes on her shoulder. When she looked down, her hands were back to normal. They were swollen, crimson, and throbbing, but they no longer resembled Dahlia Christoph's hands. Cordelia collapsed on the bathroom floor. That's that. It only gets worse for Cordelia. Now I'm gonna explain something to you guys. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the plot. Wind Witch does come back. The Walker kids are banished. They find Will again. They were banished into the world of Christoph's books. The first place they go to is ancient Rome.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows about ancient Rome?
Oh, my God.
Did anybody see the movie Gladiator? Okay, so it's like Gladiator, where their house, if you see the cover of the book, their house is thrown directly into the middle of the Roman Colosseum. First thing they do is they realize they're in ancient Rome. They have to, lions come into the house. They get the Book of Doom and Desire, turn the lions really fat so the lions can't catch them. And they run outside, and Brendan is suddenly, he's taken by the ancient Roman Empire, Occupus, and Brendan becomes a gladiator. He goes into gladiator training and his head gets really big. He gets egomaniacal, thinking he doesn't need his family anymore. He's going to be a big gladiator star. So, that's where we start here. Brendan says to his brothers and sisters, "I don't want to deal with you anymore. I'm moving into the palace." His brothers and sisters are staying in Christoph's house in the middle of the Roman Colosseum. And Brendan is all full of himself, thinking he's going to be the next Russell Crowe, or Maximus was his name, right? Yeah. So, what I need though is I'm going to read you a couple of pages of this, but I need someone to play Brendan.
Oh my!
Now, who's got the toughest, who's strong, who's the best actor? Who's the best actor here?
Oh, watch your mouth.
All right, open up, you sit there, open up to, what's your name? This is Ben. Open up to page 230.
Is it already here?
230, yeah.
232, I'm good.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so I'm going to read this with, I'll read this with Ben. I guess I'll give you the mic so everybody can hear you. And then we're going to bring up a couple other kids in a second.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? All right, as Brendan ran away from Christoph House in the dark night, the Roman guards let him pass once he explained he was going to Occupus for special training for tomorrow's games. He started to have doubts. I've never been on my own before, never really been away from my family. You should read this. These are your thoughts. So there you go. Read that italicized one.
Maybe being a Roman is what I've always been
Destined.
I know, I'm not at this part. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I've always thought I was meant to be a lacrosse star or a player for the Giants, but I'm not really that great at those things. But here, maybe I can be great. I'm already close to the Emperor. He seems like me, and I think he respects me. But what if I never see Theo or Nell or Mom and Dad again? No, you can think like that. You've got to keep going, keep going, keep going.
Stop!
Oh.
That's me. Stop!
Stop!
Maybe I don't need this here. You control it. Brendan froze in his tracks and slowly turned. It was the Wind Witch. She floated a few feet above the ground on gentle gusts of air. She wore her new chrome false hands, which glowed, and a long cape that flowed behind her. The curve of her smile and the curve of her bald head reminded Brendan of the eye symbol on the Book of Doom and Desire.
What do you want?
Brendan asked. One final test, said the Wind Witch.
Test?
The Wind Witch stuck one of her false hands under her armpit and pulled it off. Beneath it was another metallic item attached to her stub, a long, razor-sharp, curved knife. The Wind Witch lowered herself to the ground and she started to walk toward Brendan. As she got close, she extended the knife. The Colosseum was empty. Christoph House was too far away. If Brendan called for help, no one would be able to reach him until it was too late. He stalled.
What are you doing?
Asked Brendan, his voice shaking. I tried to kill your sister Cordelia, said the Wind Witch, and I failed. I tried to kill Eleanor, and I failed again. As you can imagine, it's all very confusing and disturbing to me. I don't know why my power has weakened, and in my search for an answer, I realized one very important thing. I haven't tried to kill you.
Look, lady,
Said Brendan, trying to stop his voice from trembling.
I just want to get back to the Emperor, and I'm trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to hurt you. Do you really need to do a test on me? I mean...
Before Brendan could say another word, the Wind Witch's arm shot forward, plunging the knife deep into his chest. Deep into his heart.
Ow.
Brendan gasped. It hurt. It took his breath away. He felt his heartbeat starting to slow. He couldn't speak. He looked down. Blood poured from the wound down his chest. The Wind Witch pulled out the knife and smiled. Brendan fell to his knees and felt himself losing consciousness. It worked, said the Wind Witch. My power has returned. Brendan's heart stopped beating. Everything around him spun, but before he collapsed on the ground, the wound in his chest began to close up. He could feel his heart muscles rethreading, and he felt a thump of life inside him. He was confused, overjoyed, terrified. It was like nothing he'd ever experienced. Within seconds, he was able to breathe again. The color returned to his face. No! Screamed the Wind Witch. Brendan stumbled back to his feet, placed his hand on his restored chest, feeling his heartbeat. He smiled at the Wind Witch. It felt like he had just won a huge gladiator fight, like he had beaten her in front of a packed crowd.
Guess your mojo's gone, Baldy.
Hearing that, the Wind Witch shot up in the air like a rocket, screaming, "It can't be," before disappearing into the night sky. Brendan turned away and with a renewed sense of confidence, raced toward the entrance to the Emperor's palace.
This is a sign, he thought. I'm not just supposed to be a Roman. I'm invincible! I'm supposed to be a gladiator. Maybe the greatest gladiator of all time.
There you go. Good job, man. Ladies and gentlemen, all right. All right, so I need someone who can play an older Cordelia. Is that you? Okay. I need another great actor. Somebody with a loud voice. Okay. So you're gonna be Cordelia. You're going to be Eleanor. And I need another Brendan, a guy with a strong voice. Is he good? Who's the best actor? Really? Yeah? All right. All right. So this is when the family kind of, they're in the house alone. Brendan is all full of himself. His body is now oiled like a gladiator's. He's wearing a purple toga. He's going to be fighting that day. And he comes basically to say goodbye to his brothers and sisters, whose house is still in the middle of the Coliseum. So you guys all have your roles. Go to page 237. And can you guys, if you don't use the mic, can you be loud enough, you think? Yeah. Can you guys hear pretty well without the mic?
No.
All right, we'll try without the mic. If you have problems, we'll bring the mic back. Okay, they're all in the house. Ready? We're starting with they all took a moment to think about. They all took a moment to think about Brendan and what kind of trouble he could be getting into. And then Cordelia took charge and started organizing a reading of the books. Eleanor and Felix kept looking at Atlantis Brigade. They're looking through the books, by the way, for a clue as to why they're in ancient Rome. Cordelia and Will began skimming manuscript titles, The Minefield Under the Sea, The Lunar Odyssey, in an attempt to find out what other books they might be trapped in. It was sobering. Cordelia's head began to fill with all the horrible and deadly scenarios that were inside each manuscript. They had a tough time enough with gladiators. What if they were attacked by a spaceship or prehistoric creatures? In the middle of this investigation, Brendan returned to the house. He wore a purple toga, like the men who sat close to the action in the Coliseum, and a golden vine-shaped crown. His body glistened, covered with oil. He walked with his chest held high, as if he had something long and straight sticking up his backside.
Good morning,
He said. Roman guards stood behind him.
Oh, Brendan!
Cordelia gushed, despite still being angry at how he had left them.
Oh, where have you been?
with octopus.
Octopus. That's all right. It's spelled like octopus. Brendan answered. A little louder, guys. He seemed cagey. He looked at his feet, which were adorned with brand new leather sandals.
I've been in his palace. We feasted all night until I don't know when the last night. I woke up. Check out my cool outfit.
Bran, don't leave us again.
Eleanor said.
We had a horrible night. There were no blankets or anything, and believe it or not, we actually missed all of your dumb jokes and complaining.
Yeah, well,
Brendan said. He kept staring at his toes.
the people in Octopus's palace are really nice. I mean, nicer to me than anybody back home.
Brendan.
Started Eleanor, but her brother took a deep breath and interrupted. Louder.
You have to let me finish, Nell. Ever since we came back from our last adventure, I haven't been happy. I mean, our family has all this money, but we're not happy. And now we're at a school with kids who have more money anyways. And the harder I try to fit in, like getting in that backpack, the more people make fun of me. And I don't really feel like I belong, you know?
That's called being a teenager, Bren.
Cordelia said. You guys can pass this back and forth.
We'll all feel it.
Even now, she's only 9. Wait, where? Okay.
Very mature 9.
Oh, a very mature 9.
Said Eleanor.
But here,
Brendan continued.
I do feel like I belong. I'm special here, and no one will ever take that away from me. I'll be a guest of honor as long as Occupus is in power.
And then, when he's kicked off the throne or hanged, you'll take over, right?
Cordelia asked in a mocking tone.
I don't want to take over.
Brendan said.
I just want to stay.
You're not serious, are you?
Eleanor asked.
I'm more serious than I've ever been.
Brendan said.
I know you guys are all used to making jokes, but this isn't a joke. I don't want to go home. I want to stay in Ancient Rome for good.
Everyone looked around, waiting to see who would speak first. Cordelia stepped forward.
Bren, you really need to think about what you just said.
She exclaimed, suddenly panicked.
We can't break up with this family. We work together. And it's the only way we can manage to survive. We're going to need your help to find a way back to Mom and Dad. I think the Wind Witch.
I don't care about the Wind Witch.
Brendan said.
I don't want to have to worry about her ever again, especially after last night.
What happened last night?
After I left, she showed up. She said she had to try to kill me to see if she really lost her power.
And?
Well, I'm here, aren't I?
Oh, so she can't kill any of us.
Pondered Cordelia.
Why do you think that is?
I don't care.
Said Brendan.
I just want to hang out and out at the Coliseum, eat some cured meat, rock in the hammock, watch the gladiator games.
What kind of horrible person have you turned into?
Eleanor burst out.
What would Mom and Dad think? I mean, don't you ever miss them?
Of course I miss them.
Brendan said.
But sometimes kids leave their parents early on. Not everybody has to stay home until they're 30 or whatever. It used to be that you went off and made our fortune as soon as you could. And that's what I'm trying to do.
You won't make any fortune here.
Cordelia said.
In a few weeks, you'll be lying in a ditch. Maybe the Wind Witch can't kill you, but there are plenty of other things that can. This is a really dangerous place. Your notoriety won't last forever.
Brendan dismissively waved his hand at them the way he'd seen Occupus do. Everyone just rolled their eyes. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna skip ahead after this. So that he really was turning into an annoying, pompous egomaniac. All of a sudden, they heard a huge crack outside. Will flinched. He knew that sound. What was that? He said. Artillery, said Will, not believing the word even as it came out of his mouth. Everyone looked out the window. The Roman guards who had left with Brendan were running across the arena. Brendan was running himself, his purple toga looking like a smear of jam because he was moving so fast. Another huge crack sounded, followed by a massive crushing and crumbling like an avalanche. Is it Fat Jagger? Eleanor asked, hopeful to see her old friend. Who's Fat Jagger? Asked Felix. He was a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine. No, it's not him, said Will. That sounded like an armor-piercing shell, and Cordelia and Eleanor both yelled.
Wait, where was it?
Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. My fault. Bad directing. They both yelled,
Tank!
Tank! Tank! They saw through the front door. A dark green tank had burst through the walls of the Coliseum. Luckily, it was still early morning and there weren't any people in the stands, but a large portion of the curved building where yesterday thousands of spectators had sat was now a pile of junky rubble on the ground. And the tank, chunky rubble, sorry. And the tank, looking like an impenetrable, determined robot, rolled right through the rubble, heading toward Christoph House. Eleanor pointed and shouted,
Nazis!
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 Painted on the front of the tank was a giant swastika. Bloody hell, Will said. They've got to be from another Christoph book. We should have known when we found that armband. 2 of the worlds are coming together. She rushed to the pile of manuscripts to find one about World War II. That's where I'll stop. I'd like to hear it from my fellow actors here. Good job, guys. Thank you. No, but I guys want to ask me any questions, movies, books, whatever you want to talk about, and then we'll sign some books. All right, guys. Yes. What's that? So we're going to do a question and answer thing, guys. Do you have any questions about any of the movies? Okay, our first question's here.
Nobody gave it to you yet. I know where they are. Oh, you're set. Okay.
Okay, so I think you were asking if we're planning on turning these into films.
No, like, do you think you're gonna make that?
Oh, we're talking about we're definitely going to try to do 3 books. So we're talking about what the story is going to be for the 3rd book right now. And are we going to make movies out of the books? Not yet. I mean, the goal of the books was to get kids into reading. And unlike movies, which, you know, they come out on one weekend and then you can see them on DVD 3 weeks later. These books, to me, are something that stick around for a while, people talk about, so they take a while for people to discover them. So we're going to be patient. We want people to discover the Kristoff world and the Walker world through the books. Yes?
How did you get the idea for Battle of the Beasts?
How did we get the idea for Battle of the Beasts? We just... my co-writer and I, Ned, talked for hours about how we would essentially kind of beat the first book in terms of action and adventure. We wanted to create a book like the Indiana Jones movies, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, that when you ended a chapter, you couldn't stop. You needed to turn to the next chapter to find out what's happening. And we learned our lesson from writers who you guys will probably read later on. People like Ray Bradbury. Some of you may have read Ray Bradbury, but Ray Bradbury and Michael Crichton. I remember when I read Jurassic. If you haven't read Jurassic Park, the book is amazing. And you can't stop turning the pages. He taught me how to do that. Yes? Oh, sorry. I forgot to introduce Felix. Felix is a Roman gladiator who they befriend, who follows them on the adventures through this particular book. Sharp guy. Oh, yes.
What's that green thing on the side of the house?
What's the what?
On the house.
Oh, this. This is a snow beast. Later in the book, they go to Tibet and meet a group of monks who live in an isolated castle. And in that castle, they can't get out of the castle because they're attacked by, not snow beasts, I'm sorry, frost beasts. Frost beasts are about 9.5 feet tall. And the only way you can kill them, they're like little babies. They have a little soft spot on their head, so you have to drop a spike into that. But I wouldn't recommend, you know. But anyway, frost beasts, that's how they're killed in the book. I already talked to you, but go ahead.
So if you make a movie, just give me a call.
Okay, so Ned said if I make a movie, give him a call. He'll be the actor. All right. You may be too old by the time to make a movie. Somebody back there, yes. Yeah.
What was it like working with Daniel Radcliffe?
Well, Daniel Radcliffe started when we started the Harry Potter movies, he was 10 years old. So he became 11. So he looked close. As you know. So it was great. I mean, he had never been on a movie set before. He had done one small PBS thing, David Copperfield, but he was only on that set for 3 or 4 days. So when we first started shooting Harry Potter, if you look at the first movie, you'll see that we always cut away after one of the kids speaks 1 time or 2 times because they couldn't stop looking into the camera and smiling or looking up at the lights. So we had to shoot it with all of these cameras around so they would be able to concentrate, and then we could shoot the scene.
And
yes?
If you make a movie, can I play you a little more?
Yeah, like I said, if we don't make a movie for 10 years, it might be difficult to cast you as Eleanor, but you never know. Yeah, we'll see. But, let's see, back there, I don't want to miss it. There you go. Yeah. Am I excited about the new Percy Jackson movie? I actually didn't know there was a new Percy Jackson movie being made, so I had no idea. He said who was my favorite character in the books? I have to say, since these characters, having raised 3 teenagers and dealing with a 4th in the house right now, all these characters are sort of a combination of my own kids, and this is like 15, 20 years of dinner conversations. So I kept all of that stuff in my head and never had an outlet for it until now. So they're all my favorite characters because they remind me of my own children so much at various points. And 2 of my kids, my son's name is Brendan, and my daughter's name is Eleanor.
Well, I love
And I didn't, my other two kids, Violet, I couldn't put into her name into the book because of Violet is in what book?
Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka.
And isn't she in Twilight? Oh, Lemony Snicket. Oh, that's not, okay.
If you do make a movie, what do you think it would be rated?
If I make a movie, what would it be rated? Between PG and PG-13.
Oh, I know.
I can't, this book, no, this book won't be rated R. We got questions down here from this guy in the orange shirt, giant shirt.
What was your favorite line from Mrs. Doubtfire?
What was my favorite line from Mrs. Doubtfire?
I know them all.
Yeah, do you like the movie?
I love that.
So he asked me what my favorite line from Mrs. Doubtfire. I think "Help is on the way" is one of my favorite lines.
Help is on the way, dear.
I should have had you up here. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
How many books do you plan on making?
How many books do we plan on writing? At least 3. We'll see how far we get after that. You may find out at the end of this book. She asked if there's any way to defeat Dahlia Kristoff. And I said there might be an answer or a clue at the end of this book. Oh yeah, hey buddy.
TJ knows.
Okay, that's a good question. What are some tips about writing a book? I always, when I talk to high school kids or even kids in college, they're always like, how do you go about writing a book, or how do you go about writing a screenplay? And my answer is always, just if you sit down once a day and write 1 page, just 1 page of the book, and then walk away and go, that could take you anywhere from an hour to, an hour and a half maybe. If you're a fast writer, maybe you can write a page in a half hour. If you write 1 page a day and commit to that for a year, by the time you've reached a year, you will have written 360 some pages. So if you do that, you may have a good book, you may have a book that doesn't work, but you should be doing that every day. You have to write every day, and then as you get more into it, as you get more into the story, you'll find that you're going to want to write more than 1 page anyway, because you'll like the story so much, you'll get into it. And the key to really writing a book or a screenplay is write your story out. Do an outline of your story so you know where you're going to go a little bit. And then after you do the outline, write your book, and then constantly give it to, like if you have an English teacher you like or a friend, give it to them. Take their criticism and rewrite. The one thing I learned, even at a very young age in my English class, was the key to writing is rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Ned and I rewrote this book at least 8 to 10 times, over and over and over. We had notes from the publisher, and so you have to work really hard to get it just right. Yes?
Okay, so I came here on Monday and I read a bit of the book, and it's super good so far. And I really like
thank
it.
you.
And you can finish it. Also, I'm writing a book right now, and it's pretty long. But he just talked to, he's writing a book, and it's like 300 pages long. Really good.
Your book is really good?
I haven't finished it.
Oh, but that's great that you're writing. See, that's fantastic. Do you show it to your friends or your teachers or anybody?
Yeah, I'm not finished.
Well, finishing it is a good thing, but a guy your age writing a 300-page book, that's impressive. And it's impressive that you're writing every day as well. Yeah. What's that?
Like how last year you still have the same.
Like Madera.
No, unfortunately, in the next book we'll have someone else.
Why?
Oh, did I? Oh, yes. What's that? What's my favorite movie I made? I have to say, between, I don't know, there's a lot of them I don't like, and I don't go back and watch them very much, but I did have such a good time making the first 2 Harry Potter movies, because we wanted to make 5-hour movies out of those movies, because we really thought that we wanted to be faithful to the books, and kids were always, after the first movie, and the first movie was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and kids were like, it was too short, and parents would say to me, that movie was way too long. So, you have to figure out what you're going to keep in the movie and what you're going to cut out of the movie. Yes? Yeah?
Well, if you do make a movie, when you made the movies with Harry Potter, when about like Harry Potter, like the kids going to Hogwarts?
Oh, you know, the problem is, I mean, you mean like another movie? She asked if I would make another movie with the Harry Potter cast, maybe about the kids going to Hogwarts. But the problem is that story hasn't been written, and J.K. Rowling really is obsessed with making sure that she creates the world or the stories. So she hasn't written that yet. And she's really the person who would decide. If she wrote that, it's almost what you're talking about is called a prequel, right? If she wrote that, I'm sure they would want to make it into a film. She's writing another book now about the Potter world. It doesn't involve the actual cast from the first Harry Potter movie, or maybe many of the characters, but it's about the world, and they're going to turn that into a movie.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yes. Oh, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
Is it about your life?
Oh, are these about my life?
Any connection?
As I said, they have a huge connection to my life because I wanted to set a book. I wanted to do a book that was set in San Francisco. So I always love stories that begin and start in San Francisco. We don't see enough of them these days, and since it's too expensive to shoot movies here, I can't do that anymore. I have to go to places like Toronto and Vancouver. But I really wanted to set this in San Francisco, and so that's the connection I had. I also was, I used to live, I lived in this house across the street from a park. I've since moved, but sometimes at night when I go through that house and turn off the lights, I'd look across the park and there was like fog, and I'd always see like, it was probably not the same person, but like someone standing in the fog staring at the house. Nothing freaked me out more than that. I was like, I'd turn on the alarm, so I thought, wow, there's nothing creepier than someone showing up at your house that you've never met. And when I first got my house, I'll tell you one last story. This is back in 1995. I didn't have a gate in front of the house yet, and it used to be it was like a small music school, not a big music school, but a small music school. And people would walk into the front door when we were eating dinner and say, "What time? Do you have a schedule of music classes?" And I was like, "No, we don't do it." But that would scare. But you always think you would punch someone or throw someone out if they're walking into your house. But I extended my hand and said, "Oh, how you doing?" Because I didn't want to get shot or anything. So anyway, so that's where that came from. And as I said, my kids are a big part of these characters. Who has not had a question answered yet? Yes.
What do you think your next book is going to be called?
I have no idea. We're really trying to come up with a wild storyline that's a little different from this one. Yes. Favorite movie that I made, I think we talked about it, was the first two Harry Potter movies. I like those a lot. Oh, this guy.
What was your least favorite movie you ever made?
What was my least favorite movie I ever made?
Yeah.
Don't watch it. It's called Bicentennial Man. I made it in San Francisco, and it's not a good movie.
What is it rated at?
It's rated PG. Don't watch it, I'm telling you. It's terrible.
What's it called? Was your daughter Violet? What's it called?
No, because her character was in another book. But she wasn't. Let's see, who hasn't had a question answered yet? This guy.
Would you ever consider Harry Potter scene like in one of your books? How you have all those decisions?
Oh yeah. Oh, like the kids get lost. He's asking if I put a Harry Potter scene in the book. Like the kids get lost in the Harry Potter world.
Yeah.
I'd love to, but I'd be sued. Probably by the publisher of the Harry Potter books. Yeah, those characters are very sort of specific to that world, and I don't think they can be used anywhere else, unless you have them in the amusement park at Universal.
Maybe one or two more.
Okay. What's that? To writing stories? She asked if she loves writing stories, do I have any tips? Just be, as I said, you have to be disciplined and really, really write every day, and also try to use something from your real life. Even though these are fantasy books, the characters are based on people I know, some of the, so all all of that is personal. So even if it's the most wildly fantastic story, try to use characters that you know about. Change their names though, because they can get upset sometimes. What's that? She asked if I live in Marin. No, I live in San Francisco. We used to have like faces. She asked me to tell. She thought that I had, based on the book and what talking about what was from my own personal life that was in this book. She asked me if I ever talked about the gargoyles in my house. I didn't have gargoyles in my old house. I had these horrific Medusa faces on the front of the house. So there were 4 of them, and that would scare the living daylights out of me. And I'd see them every day. They were really great. Okay, who hasn't had a question? Okay. 2 questions.
What's your favorite movie that you haven't directed or written?
My favorite movie that I haven't directed or written. I'm trying to think of something you can watch. My favorite movie that I haven't. I have to say, because everybody says The Godfather is the best movie ever made. I love that movie, but that's. I would say The Marx Brothers, Duck Soup, or go look at these. Pretty cheap. Yeah. What's that?
Do you like the movie Bridesmaids?
He asked me if I like the movie Bridesmaids. It's okay. I like it. Who was not in a question? Yes.
If the kids in the book are based off of your kids, what's the language?
If the kids off of my book are based off of my, if the kids in the book are based on my kids, who's the Wind Witch based off? A really nasty teacher I had in 5th grade. She wore a wig, but I knew she was bald underneath it. Who has not had a question? Wait, I gotta go back there. Yeah. So the wand that he gets at Ollivanders is not what he uses when?
Like, it's not the one that he has throughout
He has it in the first 2 movies, I think. Then I stopped. I think, isn't there a scene in one of the further, what's that? But isn't there a scene in one of the later movies where he gets a new wand?
Yeah.
Oh. Who? Yes. What's that?
What's your middle name?
My middle name is Joseph.
What made you make Mrs. Doubtfire?
What's that?
What made you make Mrs. Doubtfire?
She asked what made me make Mrs. Doubtfire. Well, I read the script for Mrs. Doubtfire, thought it was funny, and I thought it would be fun to live in San Francisco and shoot a movie, and then Mrs. Doubtfire is the reason I moved to the Bay Area.
Me too. His name is Robin.
Which one? I guess this is the last question, guys. What's that? Oh, that's a good idea. We talked about outer space. So he said for the next House of Secrets, a space odyssey in the Wild West. I'll keep that in mind. But don't try to sue me if I...
Before we get started, the first line, you would ask a question when you're in line. First, we want to thank Chris. Will everybody give her a big round